Hello everybody, my name is Daisy Daniel. I'm a personal resilience life coach coming to you on my Facebook page every Monday, every Thursday at 12 p.m. to do an impromptu reading from an excerpt from The Language of Letting Go. And I wanted to do this in a very authentic way. In other words, not reading it ahead of time, not knowing what it is I'm going to read, not prepping, not doing any kind of outline, nothing like that. Just doing it and giving opportunity for people to comment on the reflection. So if you don't have a piece of paper with you, maybe a pen, a pencil to jot down some notes of things that resonate with you, go ahead and get that now so you could have it. I'm also going to be posting these videos on YouTube, because I think the information in these pages are very important. And the title alone tells us a lot. The Language of Letting Go. And, you know, letting go is a process that people have a very hard time with. Letting go of things that don't help them in life, whether they're addictions, whether they're relationships that pull them down. Whatever it is, there are things that we do need to let go. And, you know, for those of you that read the Bible, we know there are many things in the Bible that God tells us to let go of. And what I like about this book is that the reflections are really short, they're easy to understand, and it's based on not being a codependent. If you don't know who the author is, it's Melody Beattie. And Melody Beattie is the author of Codependent No More, which is, I believe it was written in 2009. Very good book as well. And she's written many self-help books. The other thing I wanted to do with these Facebook Lives is just record it as it is, no editing, no fixing anything, just going with the flow. Very relaxed atmosphere. So invite your friends, tell your family about it. It shouldn't take very long every week. Thinking maybe 20 minutes, 30 tops to read. And then if people participate, they leave comments, then I could address those and we could talk even further through the comment area. If you're watching on YouTube, you may also leave comments in the comment area on YouTube, or if you're seeing this on the replay, leave comments and I will respond. I will look at it and respond on Mondays and Thursdays. All right, so let's begin. What I'm going to do is tell you the page that I'm on, not the actual date, because it is a book written with dates, you know, like for one day, every day of the year. But I had already read all of this section, and before I got the idea of doing this Facebook Live, and so I'm just continuing where I left off. I have no idea what I'm going to read today, but it's always a treat. It's always something I learn, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't learn something. And hopefully you're that way too. You are open to learning, you are open to growing, and hopefully you don't think you know everything, because none of us do. And we really do need each other in this journey called life. And I always learn something. So I used to read a page every day. Now, since I'm only doing these Facebook Lives twice a week, I'm like so anxious to read it, because it's that good. It's that good, really. So I have my pen and I'm ready to go. Let's see what we're reading today. I am going to be reading out of page 109. And the title is Lessons on the Job. Often the spiritual and recovery lessons we're learning at work reflect the lessons we're learning in other areas of our lives. Often the systems we're attracted to in our working life are similar to the systems in which we find ourselves living and loving. I'm going to underline that because I just made a little connection there with something that I might touch on. Those are the systems that reflect our issues and can help us learn our lessons. Are we slowly learning to trust ourselves at work? How about at home? Are we slowly learning to take care of ourselves at work? How about at home? Are we slowly learning boundaries and self-esteem, overcoming fear and dealing with feelings? If we search back over our work history, we will probably see that it is a mirror of our issues, our growth. It's mostly likely is now too. We're almost done. See how short they are? Short and sweet. For today, we can believe that we are right where we need to be, at home and at work. She always puts a little prayer at the end. I'm going to go ahead and read that as well, and then I'll expand on it a little bit. Today I will accept my present circumstances on the job. I will reflect on how what I am learning in life applies to what I am learning at work. If I don't know, I will surrender to the experience until that becomes clear. God, help me accept the work I have been given to do today. Help me be open to and learn what I need to be learning. Help me trust that it can and will be good. Okay, well, this is very interesting that this was the excerpt for today, because so many of us are without a job right now. We are going through the COVID-19 pandemic. Many people have lost their home by themselves. Hey, Susie, they're home, they don't have a job, they don't know what to do next. I was working as a substitute teacher. I am a certified teacher, but I was working as a substitute teacher prior to the pandemic. And when the pandemic happened, I was left without a job, pretty much. And it's been a blessing in disguise, because what I'm doing now is spending more time doing things like this, things that I love to do, reaching out to people, talking about topics that interest me, that I think are very important topics to talk about. So Susie, you're joining us now. I just read the excerpt from The Language of Letting Go, and the title of it was Lessons on the Job. And pretty much what she was saying was that the lessons that we're learning at our job reflect the lessons we're learning at home, vice versa. And it made me think of the different jobs I've had in the past. And I recently, in October, resigned from being a teacher. And I loved teaching. I had also homeschooled my kids for a long time, 13 years to be exact, 3 children. And I went into teaching because, more out of necessity, I had separated, eventually got divorced. I needed to work and support myself, which I had never done that before. I had always worked very little during my married life. I mean, I worked, but I didn't get paid for it. I worked, at home as a homemaker, as a homeschool mom. And so when I found myself in a place where I needed to work, even though I have a bachelor's in social psychology, I thought, well, I've been homeschooling for 13 years. The logical thing would be to teach. And so I went back to school, became a teacher, and bounced around different charter schools, had different experiences, then district school. The only thing I never did was private. Well, that's not true. I did teach 2 years in a private homeschool school, but never in a 5-day-a-week type school. And definitely the lessons I was learning at home, I was applying at work. And sometimes we end up in atmospheres, in environments that resemble our home. And so I went into teaching because that's what I was comfortable with. I had homeschooled. But after doing it for 5 years in the public school system, I finally resigned in October. I just didn't feel I was being as effective as I could be, because when you work, in a government school, you have to do things a certain way. Some things I didn't quite agree with. I felt bad doing things they wanted me to do. I felt uncomfortable. I never felt like I was really being my best self in teaching. But I did learn a lot of lessons. And this is what I learned. And again, what we read today was lessons on the job. And Susie, you could probably read, when you see the replay, you could see what it was. It was a short excerpt. But let me just say that some jobs are very toxic environments. And that's the other thing I noticed. Some of the places, not all, but some of the places where I worked, the work environment was very toxic. And what makes a work environment toxic? The people in it, okay? Not the children. The children were fine. Even the parents were fine. It has to do with the environment you're in, as far as leadership and other colleagues. And it reminded me a lot of the toxic stuff that was going on in my home, in my marriage. And after a while, I just couldn't do it anymore. It's like, there's got to be a better way. And I'm sure there are many places that are not like that. Places you could work, different schools and such. But I never had that experience. I had more negative than positive. So I'm going to go ahead and read, Susie, since you're here with me, and thank you for joining me. I'm going to read the prayer at the end, and then I'll open it up to you, see if there's anything you'd like to share, and we could expand on it a little more. But here's the prayer, and normally the prayer she does at the end of every reflection has to do with the lesson, so you'll get the gist of it. It says, today I will accept my present circumstances on the job. I will reflect on how I am learning. What I am learning in my life applies to what I'm learning at work. If I don't know, I will surrender to the experience until that becomes clear. God, help me accept the work I have been given to do today. Help me be open to and learn what I need to be learning. Help me trust that it can and will be good. So, Susie, if there's anything on your mind regarding this topic about work, right now we're in a pandemic. Did the work affect you? Did you lose work? Are you right now working? What are the lessons you're learning at work? And do they transfer over to the home, and vice versa? Or the lessons you're learning at home transfer over to work? And anything you want to expand on that? You could go ahead and type in the comments, and then we could talk more. In the meantime, while you think about it, in case you do want to comment, I'm going to just see what I underlined here. Often, the systems we're attracted to in our working life are similar to the systems in which we find ourselves living and loving. Those are the systems that reflect our issues and can help us learn our lessons. I would say that's true. I think I felt comfortable working as a teacher because at home I was a homeschool teacher. And I think it took me a long time to come to terms with the toxic environment in the workplace because it was something I was used to at home. And it wasn't until I really started noticing how unhappy I was. If you're more unhappy at work than you are happy, there's something wrong. You should stop and reflect on that. Because, work is hard. All jobs are difficult. My goodness, think about the essential workers right now. You talk about difficult, you know. I'm home now recording a Facebook Live. They're saving lives. It's very tough. So it's not that it's tough. There's a difference between tough and difficult work and toxic environments. Very toxic. And when I say toxic, I mean, I'm not saying like physically, like right now, the essential workers are closer to the sickness of COVID-19. I don't mean that way. I'm talking toxic to your spirit, to your heart, to your mind. And it could really do a job on you that could have lasting effects, you know, in your life. So, you know, you have to really see the line between how long do I stay in this job forever? I remember talking to teachers, and so many teachers would leave the profession. And a lot of them, I mean, I would say the majority of them were not happy in the school they were at. Because I just think, you know, it's just a huge problem all the way around. And they just were not happy. But they also didn't want to be bouncing around, working at different schools, because they thought that looked bad on their resume, you know, doing that. But I never felt that way. I was kind of like, you know, this isn't working out. This is really toxic. I'm really unhappy here. I'm working hard. I'm hardly sleeping. I hardly eat. The first year I was teaching, I gained like 20 pounds. I was so stressed. I was sleeping 4 hours a night, trying to jump through all their hoops and do everything they wanted me to do. And I learned a lot of lessons, you know, on the job, but it wasn't a fulfilling job at all. And then the next school I went to, I was a little more experienced, but still a lot of toxic stuff going on there. Then I went to another school, same thing. So I don't regret that decision. How about you, Susie? Anything you want to add to what we're talking about today? You don't have to. You don't have to at all. This could just be a time to reflect. Reflection is so important right now, during this time. So this was a good little lesson. It says here, are we slowly learning to trust ourselves at work? One of the things with being a teacher is that they have to learn so much stuff. And it was like every day our inbox would get blown with emails of things, new software we had to learn, new this, new that, deadlines out the wazoo. I mean, just so many deadlines. And it's really impossible to do everything they want you to do. And, you know, at one point, I thought, man, I'm probably just not a good teacher because I can't do this, everything they want me to do. But then I realized, no, it's not that I'm not a good teacher. It's a system. And unless you fall into the system and do everything they want you to do, you're not going to be happy, you know, no matter what. So I definitely learned my lessons at work. And I don't know, you know, what God has in store for me. Like I said, hello, Jeannie. Thank you for joining us. We just read an excerpt from The Language of Letting Go about the lessons we learn at work and how they coincide with the lessons learning at home. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I would love to go back to subbing because I use my subbing platform as a substitute teacher. I go in as a life coach, and the kids have no idea what they're in for, but I always bring my own lesson, and they have to do with character, and I share all kinds of awareness in the public school system. I talk about the effects of vaping. I mean, now with the correlation of vaping and COVID-19, how so many kids that have, teenagers, the younger adults that have gotten COVID-19 have been vapors. And so now I have some more little research to add to what I share with them, but I talk about, you know, the number of likes they think they should have on Instagram, depression, suicide, parental alienation, I mean, I bring all these things to the table when I go in as a substitute, so I sure hope I could go back. But we don't know what the future holds. And we just have to take it one day at a time and trust that God will provide for us, provide everything we need under heaven. You know, he promises to provide for his children shelter, food. And now during this social distancing time, I think it's also important, you know, for those of us that are not working. Today's little lesson was about work, or what we've learned at work. We're not working in a physical place right now. We're at home, but guess what? We should stay busy working at home, doing the things that you're gifted to do, and not be just depressed thinking, oh man, you know, I can't work, I have nothing to do, I'm bored, you know, just binging on Netflix or whatever. Have some downtime, but also have a schedule of what you're going to do every day to keep you productive and keep you thinking and keep you moving forward. And we all have gifts. So when you think about your life and the gifts God has given you, what are those gifts that you could share with the world? Share with those in your sphere of influence, your family, your friends, and maybe even outside of that. And there's so many things you could do. Maybe write down in the comments if you like, what are some things you are doing now during this pandemic that is making you feel really happy, that you're enjoying, that you haven't had time to do. I posted today on Facebook, one of the things I'm doing that I have not had time to do is to work. I live on 5 acres, and there's an area right by my window, right here actually, right next to where I'm sitting, that's wooded, and I've been doing yard work. One day I did 4 hours of yard work because I'm trying to clear an area to plant a butterfly garden. Let's see, Jenny said woodworking. Wow, that sounds like fun. Do you have all the equipment to do that, Jenny? Sure, you need some hefty equipment to do that. And if you don't, take classes. There's nothing you cannot learn on YouTube. I have discovered that. Anything you want to learn, you can learn on YouTube. But that sounds like fun. That sounds like fun. So yeah, I'm going to do a butterfly garden, and I do a lot of work for my business, so it's not like I have tons of free time. I have a YouTube channel, so if you're interested, you could look at that. What else? I made a Barbie house. Get out. For real? Wow. I don't know if you're able to post pictures on Facebook Live. I'm not super familiar with Facebook Live. This is kind of new, uncharted territory for me. But if you're able to post a picture later during the replay or whenever, I would love to see that dollhouse. Barbie dollhouse. Do you know that when I was a kid, my mom was a single mom, and I always wanted Barbies, and I wanted a dollhouse. And every year I begged for it. Begged and begged and begged and begged. And you know how old I was when I finally got my first Barbie? Take a guess. How old do you think I was when I got my first Barbie and my first Barbie dollhouse? I was 12. I was 12. And I'll never forget the joy that I had. And I would come up with all kind of stories and, you know, just create marriages and families and babies and clothes galore, and it was great. She spent a fortune on it, and I finally got my wish. So that's great. How about you, Susie? What are you doing to keep busy these days? I've been doing more baking, which is not great for the diet, but you know, I used to cook a lot, used to bake a lot, and so now I've been doing a little bit more baking. And oh, something new I started doing is learning how to foot shuffle, and that's been fun. If you don't know what that is, go on YouTube and Google it, or go on TikTok. It's very good exercise and it's a lot of fun. Very de-stressing. All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you for joining me. I'm going to be posting these videos. They are unedited. I don't edit them. This is all impromptu reading, and just like a cold read and see the reflection that I gain from it, what everyone else gains from it. I'm going to do this every Monday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, USA. And join me, and then I will eventually post it on YouTube. Check out my other playlists on YouTube. I'm going to be bringing a lot of new content on homeschooling, abuse awareness, and all kind. I have like 12 different playlists in the works that I'm going to be doing. But this is my impromptu, no script, no outline, no prepping. I don't even know what it is I'm going to read next time. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you could join me, please join me. And thank you for visiting me today. You all have a great day, and God bless. Bye.